Hello everyone! So basically in this video, I wanted to talk about how Oregon, they just decriminalized hard drugs. Now, that is going to specifically be about small amounts of cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and other drugs as well. Now, honestly, my opinion on this is that decriminalizing and then legalizing, it's completely different, but it's still a step that honestly it should not be taken. I don't know why anybody would vote on that. But then again, it is Oregon. A lot of people in Portland, they're very, very radical. The most radical city in our whole country at this very moment. Seriously, you've seen all the protests that have been happening. I mean, not protests, riots, I mean. There's a few peaceful protesters, but the majority of what's going on, definitely riots over protests. I don't even know why I just said that. Probably because constantly you hear the mainstream media say that over and over again. Now, what I think, also, Oregon is the only state to do this. They're the first state to do this. Last year, they also decriminalized psilocybin, which I agree on, but now I don't agree with the whole heroin, cocaine, methamphetamine thing. Absolutely not. These are harmful drugs. They are. I know a lot of libertarians and liberals, they believe that, it's totally okay to have all drugs their argument is that if you make all drugs legal eventually, then that's pretty much gonna, defeat the war on drugs, but it's not at the same time. It might, affect different cartel members and drug dealers and everything like that, because they're not going to be able to sell their drugs and the government's going to have that in their hands, but you're going to have way more deaths. Now, let me explain that a little further. Alright, let's get to the facts, because facts over feelings, right? So, heroin use. Every single day, on average, there is at least 120 people that overdose and they die from heroin. Now, with methamphetamine, about 15% of the drug overdoses in our whole entire country are due to that. And that is a big chunk, because I think that a lot of people, they don't know exactly what they're going to get into when they're depending on that kind of drug. You have these very, very desperate individuals that they start getting hooked on stuff like meth and stuff like, heroin and everything like that to cope with their problems, to deal with their depression, to deal with, whatever is going on in their life. They have no idea. And then as a result, they die from that because it's very, very addicting. It has many consequences. People that do meth, it's very hard to come back from that. And that's why we have a lot of interventionalists that are dealing with these kind of issues in our country right now. I don't know about the rest of Oregon, but Portland is already bad enough. Seriously, they have so much violence. A lot of people are dying because of like Antifa and all these little battles in the street. Ted Wheeler sucks. He is horrible, horrible at his job, the worst leader ever. And on top of that, you're just gonna, throw in that anybody could like start doing drugs. I mean, still, it's not legal, but they're decriminalizing it. Another issue, specifically only in Portland, I'm not talking about the rest of Oregon, I'm talking about the main city, the major city in Oregon, okay? So there is 4,000 strip clubs in Portland. If you didn't know, fun fact, yes, 4,000 strip clubs, that's more than any other city in any other state in our whole entire country. So Portland has, the most strip clubs. They also have a lot of issues of human trafficking. Now, I want to honestly blame that on the Shanghai tunnels. A lot of people, you might not know what that is. So the Shanghai tunnels, they were made back in the day in Portland from a lot of people that were not originally born in the United States. And they started connecting these tunnels to different businesses. Now, a lot of businesses that are still in Portland, specifically in Chinatown, they have different connections through the Shanghai tunnels throughout their businesses, and a lot of them are like shut down, or they've like, renewed their business with construction and everything to make sure that no one can access these kind of tunnels. And there's like, if you want to, you can go to Portland, you could actually go and do a tour of these tunnels. I'm not sure during the coronavirus and the pandemic or anything like that, but it definitely still exists. And I think that that is one of the ways that human traffickers are able to access an area to kind of disappear and to do their shady little business. Now, okay, if you look at Amsterdam and you look at how all the drugs are legal there, you could go buy, drugs from a coffee shop, you got smart stores, and what happened after that? Well, after a lot of people started legalizing all kinds of drugs in Amsterdam, there's violence, not, a huge amount, but something that really bad happened is a red light district. I'm not going to talk about that really in depth, but it's bad. It's very bad. When you start legalizing hard drugs, not like marijuana, not like psilocybin, but anything above that, then typically, that's going to bring in hookers. And that's horrible. I don't want to talk about that. Literally, if I say some words, I will get banned or restricted or whatnot. But that happens. And you really want to all of a sudden make easy access to people doing even harder drugs. Like, I don't get it. It's not a good mix. It's definitely something that will be bad in the future, and there will be consequences. The butterfly effect is real. So Amsterdam, they're definitely one example that America does not want to lead by. Do you really think that America should be more like Amsterdam? That's a disaster waiting to happen. Also, another area in this world that tried to do that, well, I'm not saying tried, they actually did it, Portugal. Portugal decided that they're going to legalize all drugs, okay? They did not decriminalize, they legalized it. So, what do people do on their free time? They're doing heroin. They're doing other drugs. Yeah, they stated that it fixed the war on drugs, but it didn't. It just made it so that drug dealers weren't able to distribute the drugs. And it destroyed the black market, but the government, they're taking a part of that, which is bad. It's still bad. And it might sound almost hypocritical because I know in the United States we still have like legal drugs that, okay, if you go into certain shops, they have like salvia, they have like that kratom stuff. I don't even know what kratom is, but I've never done any of this stuff. I just pay attention to it. And what I've heard is that salvia, people have jumped out of windows, tripping on it. It's just like bath salts, actually. Just like bath salts. Does anybody remember, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, they had an issue with bath salts. Like, people were, like, becoming zombies. Quite literally, it was scary. It was like I Am Legend. Like, literally. It was so bad. Horrific. And people are doing weird stuff. Like, they're biting people. Like, someone did, like, bath salts. They're, like, biting someone. Like, also jumping out of windows. Like, committing suicide. Very, very bad for our country. So we got rid of bath salts. We also got rid of spice because it had to do with, people also overdosing, and a lot of people died. They had heart attacks, kids, a lot of teenagers, they were involved. Okay, here's another example talking about teenagers. If you are a teenager and you grow up in an environment and somehow, some way, heroin's okay, cocaine's okay, teenagers are going to get involved with that because they do everything bad. They're rebels. Teenagers do everything. I'm not saying every teenager, but basically you go to high school and you're going to have a specific amount of people, a big group, and they're going to be like, oh my god, heroin's okay, it's because it's legal, and so is cocaine, so is meth. We don't want that for our society, especially in the Pacific Northwest. In other news, New Jersey, Montana, Arizona, and South Dakota, I forgot for a second, I look at my little notes that I have, my little tiny note, basically, they legalized recreational marijuana. So I approve on that. And you guys are going to be like, oh my god, you're so against other drugs, why are you, like, for marijuana, why are you for, like, maybe even alcohol or psilocybin or something like that? I've never done psilocybin, I have, like, I don't smoke. I've smoked in the past, like, marijuana. I've done that. I've tried that. And I don't do that because I don't feel the need to have that in my life. I think that that would bring me down, and I'm being honest. And then, alcohol, okay, whatever. Those are like the three things that I agree on, besides if someone needs medicine and they have an actual reason for that. Like if you go to the doctor and you have something like you all of a sudden you fall down a staircase and you need to have some medication for that, like painkillers, that's okay. But to take painkillers if you're, just for fun, like no, absolutely not. So the thing is with recreational marijuana, that's very good for our economy. And also, yeah, I think that that does fight off against the war on drugs, like effectively, not the way that hard drugs would, because marijuana, it's the number one drug in the whole entire world, especially in the United States, that people they consume, it's part of their life or whatever. People want to be like, yeah, I'm a stoner and stuff like that, and it's a part of their life. Okay, who cares? The thing is that with marijuana, like we should obviously have restrictions when it comes to people driving and being in a public setting. You can't do that at school or work or, you know, all kinds of stuff like that, like all that jazz, right? But the thing is, marijuana has never killed anybody. That's not a myth, it's a fact. It never has. To kill someone off of marijuana, you'd have to have like, what is it, like 10 times, 15 times your body weight, or even more than that? That's impossible. No one could even do that. They wouldn't have enough energy to do that. They wouldn't be able to. They'd pass out before. So that's impossible. I mean, maybe it's not impossible. I bet somebody maybe could do it, like a world record breaker from the Guinness Records. But no, no one's ever done that. It's safe. And if you don't agree with it, then that's your own opinion too. I do agree on it. I think that people should have the choice to do it if they want or not at their legal age. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because, like, it's not like people are dying from it. Alcohol is way worse than marijuana, definitely. So it should be passed. It really should. And that's a good win for our country because now we're going to make a lot more money. Honestly, like, I don't know if people are going to hate me for this, but whatever, okay? Obama, the only good thing that he ever did was legalize marijuana. On that note, I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm going to have another video coming very shortly. And if you want to support this channel, you could go down below to my bio. I have my PayPal at Living Capone, or also you could go to Buy Me a Coffee at Living Capone. And I'll catch you next time.